your host, James Jordan.
And Michael Wallace.
Coming at you for another edition of the Wide World of Motorsports podcast, recorded for the week of July 17th, 2022. And this is the 5th season and the 21st episode.
21. Do you know any great... Name me a great 21. Like a great driver that drove 21.
Oh, man. You're putting me on the spot here, because there's so many.
Ricky Rudd.
You think of the Woods. That's the first thing that I think.
Wood Brothers, right?
Wood Brothers.
I can't... It's really hard in other racing because a lot of time... Sometimes their numbers were determined by Matty D. Yeah, no, Trevor Bayne. Anyways,
Tiny Lund, couldn't forget that. Cale Yarborough.
Oh, there you go.
Donnie Allison.
Yeah.
AJ Foyt. I mean, David Pearson, Neil Bonnet. Radiance. Buddy
AJ
Baker.
Foyt and David Pearson.
Kyle Petty. Dale Jarrett. Morgan Shea just doesn't stop. Michael Waltrip.
Wow.
Ricky Rudd.
What a popular number.
But yeah, we're all over the net, right? We're all over the FM.
Yeah, the airwaves. A little known station or a big known station. I probably said that backwards. CKMS 102.7 Radio Waterloo. We're out east, CFM H 107.3 local FM every Saturday at 1 o'clock. And Performance Motorsports Network app. Bunch of stuff on there, other podcasts, other content. Check them out. Check us out on there. So that's pretty cool. We go from the airwaves to the fiber optic waves.
So to say.
Pulses. How does it move through the fiber optic?
Oh man, maybe you're not asking the right person for that. But it's on your favorite streaming service, Spotify, Google, Apple, and a bunch of others that are great that I can't name.
Deep.
That's a good problem to have, I think. Probably. Anyway. And, of course, we have a great time on the iRacing stuff on the YouTube as well. The Wide World of Motorsports on YouTube. Good times on there. Join us if you're on the iRacing. Love to race with you, stream with you on the interwebs there.
On the old webs.
On the old webs. And, of course, www.thewideworldofmotorsportspodcast.wordpress.com. All the past episodes, we got lots of great stuff. And, of course, awesome stuff coming on the way, so... check it out, and on our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at the WWOMS, the old Soch, some reels on the Insta. You got to go on the gram. We've grammed some stuff actually
on the gram
this past weekend at the Honda Indy. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Reels.
You got some good shots.
Yeah, that was good. They translated good to reels, which I've learned from you, so that's good. But yeah,
it's a good way to get.
Yeah, man, and it's cool. It's cool to be there on a multimedia kind of level, taking some shots, getting some interviews, writing some stuff down to be able to talk here on the podcast. So lots of different angles for us.
Yeah, and lots of different racing. You got
lots of different racing. I wish I could cover
obviously
it all.
Obviously, we're talking about you being at the Honda Indy this past weekend from the time we're recording, and on Fan Friday you got, which I think would say Friday, was leading up to what was going to be good racing all weekend with the Pinties. What was the atmosphere like for them, being back in Toronto for the first time in 2 years?
And it's good that it made sense because I'm there and it's a very young crowd, diverse crowd, and I was amazed, especially with the young people there. And
did it seem open to? Did the city seem open to racing? Because cities sometimes seem to be like they don't want that. It
as
tends to be
as a
greener
wannabe Toronto
people.
man's, I'll tell you, the locals, it was already a pain because there's a lot of stuff closed in Toronto anyway for congestion stuff. They wanted to experiment with some stuff in the city, so it was already hectic to add on to closing the lakeshore every year, and that's already enough of something that the locals. There's a lot of locals that like it. There's also plenties that will tell you that it's hectic in daily life, but with the temporary road course, that's got to be kind of expected. But I could tell a lot of people loved it because. I'm sure a lot of people come from around the world and a lot of people come from the States and whatnot. But I noticed, there was people just going out there to hang out. They're like people who live like this. Hey, let's go hang out here. Let's go check it out.
That's cool.
There was also some local food vendors there as well. So a bit of a local vibe there as well. And
yeah,
no doubt, new eyes were on the sport for the NASCAR Pinty Series, and
seems like it. I got that vibe from, from just the presence on the way people were watching it. Were watching the Pinty Series. And I think because of the announcement that came of the Chicago street circuit, that there was a lot of eyes on this race as
absolutely.
A NASCAR event on streets, right?
Yeah, and not only that, with the just not aside from it being such a big event in Toronto and for Canadian motorsports, but just the season that it's already been kind of in the NASCAR Pinty Series with the great racing we've been seeing, and also with a couple of different drivers in the mix there, had great runs in the qualifying practice. Andrew Ranger, Marc-Antoine Camerand. A couple other drivers too. Just Peter Kloot. He's also up there in the championship standing, so he ran well as well.
You mean Gary?
Gary Kloot. Edit that. Gary Kloot. And so also other mentioners, Alex Gannett up there as well as Marc-Antoine Camerand marching back into the top 10. So there was some good hard racing all around. Slip slidey, in certain turns. They're racing on concrete. They're racing on asphalt. They're racing on epoxy. They're racing on, over the speed limit on Lakeshore. I mean, these guys are tight racing.
They were hauling,
cars, but good racing.
They were hauling, but yeah, it was good.
And it's kind of like, it's like, wow, they actually race good on a temporary road course. And especially in a track that's more built for open wheel racing, it's fun and the drivers like it. They it seems to be well received, and we saw a great race with Kevin Lacroix just putting on a clinic, showing how racing works. I mean, there was a couple of yellows during the race, but it wasn't too bad. We saw, unfortunately, a lot of yellow laps that fans were able to see. But that's just part of racing, and no matter what, though, just Ranger LP could not make up on the Speedy 74, and he's
really dialed in.
We talked to Kevin, and also in the press conference, he knew Ranger was behind him, but he also knew he was, he had the stuff to be ahead of him, and we actually had a few minutes with Kevin, which was really awesome.
Yeah, you got to speak with him after the race, right?
Yeah, and we spoke with him. We touched base on a few different things. The race, what's it like going to be in the upcoming part of the West Coast swing in the NASCAR Pinty Series season, and his sights on the 22 championship and then some as well. So, again, Thanks for Kevin for giving us some time on the show.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin.
I was
becoming a season regular,
and
on the WOMs.
Yeah, I think he's going to be even more on the show, and we're going to hear an awesome interview with him in the convention center out of all places.
Nice, that's awesome.
Kevin Lacroix here on the WOMs. And we're right here in the Convention Center here at downtown Toronto, and we're here with the winner of the NASCAR Pinty's Series Toronto Grand Prix, Kevin Lacroix here. You had a solid race. Now let's go back a little bit here. It's been a couple years since you guys have been here. What is it like being back here in Toronto?
It's nice. The atmosphere. I know if it was, I was scared a little bit Friday. I thought people were going to work, not many people, but it was packed, so it was exciting. I was in the car and watching it, and I was glad to see that, being back in Toronto, and also it's a nice track. It's one of those tracks where I'm not very comfortable, so it's challenging, and having a win here, being challenged by a track like this is nice.
Right, yeah, there's nothing wrong with a little bit of challenge. And hey, today you were able to bring some new eyes onto the sport, and you put a little bit of a show on. So your setup, let's talk a little bit about that. Was the car better in the technical parts of the track? Were you better on the straightaways? Where were you noticing some differences?
Well, having not many laps in practice, we didn't do, and also practice serving as qualifying, kind of do major changes. So it's kind of, we were lucky or unlucky to, landing on the right setup. So it was a little bit stressful about this, and I didn't have the best qualifying run, so I was a little bit stressed. But I think the slower the corner were, I think I was better. But I don't see behind me very well, so that's my feeling. But car-wise, and also in the straight, I think. The last time we came here, I struggled in the straight, not much power, and I know what it feels like to have feel like powerless, or I don't know how to say that, but feel like you don't have much power. And today, we were glad we did. The team did their homeworks, and we got here with a good engine. I thought I got a better engine than a better power than Andrew, so that helped for sure.
Yeah. You had Andrew. You're saying. In the victory circle there, you're saying it. You didn't see him much, but you knew he was there.
Yeah, well, in our cars we don't have like super good mirrors like a street car, so we don't see very well. But we see the shadow in the mirror, and the shadow was quite big, so I knew he was there. But I didn't know exactly how close, but I knew he was. He was able to give a bumper if he wanted.
It was hot out there today. What was it like in the car?
It was hot, but there's a big straight, so we get some wins, and it's some other tracks like GP3R where it's slow and very tight. We feel the heat much more, even though it was very hot today, but it was good.
Right. Real quick, what do you rather for a street course out of all the ones that you've raced at? Do you like Honda, Toronto, or do you prefer the GP3?
As a street course? Well, track-wise, I think I like Toronto better, for sure. I say that I have a better atmosphere in GP3R, but it's not really true. Maybe not true for everybody, but for us, we have a bunch of friends coming, sponsors. Last time we had 400 people that we invite. I don't know. So 400 people with our T-shirts in the team, and so that's good atmosphere. So for sure, for me, being from Quebec, the GP3R is a little bit better, but I think track-wise, Toronto is good.
So you've shown yourself really well on the road courses this season, and now we're going back out west. Been a couple years too for that. What's your mindset going into the West Coast swing?
Well, we always struggled a little bit in Saskatoon. I think at one time I qualified first or second, but it didn't last long. I fell back right away. But I think Edmonton, we did good in the past. We showed good speed. Also, you always depend on luck, but I think we were good in Edmonton, and I'm glad that it's the first of the two races coming. So trying to build momentum on my win today and a good result in Edmonton, and build the momentum on that.
Right, and hey, you know what? You're going to be close in the championship running here. What's it like for the long run and the short run game for you guys?
Well, we seems like every 2 years we get a shot. Every 2 years we struggle. So now it's that year that we have a shot, and we need to close the deals.
I hope so, and it's always good seeing you in victory lane, and we'll be seeing you in the next few months, and always fun watching you, Kev.
All right, thank
And
you.
thank you, Kevin, once again for giving us some time post race. Look forward to seeing
Thanks,
you
Kevin.
and hearing from you. But of course, as you said, the big show was the IndyCar series on the Sunday.
Yeah, well, which we knew was going to be a good race just from the first race of the weekend, which was the Pinty Series, which we spoke about. We had Colton Herta starting on pole.
And that qualifying session was
for
intense.
2 years. It was intense.
Yeah.
I did watch that, and it was really, they were pushing.
Yes. They were just hanging around the track.
I've never seen them go so fast around that track. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just because we haven't seen them there for 2 years, but it was good. What was, you were there on Sunday, so like what was the vibe of IndyCar on Sunday? Like, was it really like, okay, we're happy this is back?
Well, I was back at a couple different ones pre-pandemic, and it definitely did feel that way. And there was probably, if not even more people that were, as we will hear eventually from Scott in the press conference, there was more people in
packed.
pit road than ever. It was packed, and you could tell people were excited to see IndyCar racing back into the streets of Toronto, and especially after 2 years. And for some drivers, maybe this track was the chance for them to be able to get back, and we eventually saw that ultimately with Scott Dixon. 23 race winless streak, and he's in my opinion one of the best IndyCar racers of all time, and we're seeing him we kind of saw him get out of a little bit of that streak, which was great to see. And not only that, which was real super special seeing him tie, but that that was of course the after part of it. But no doubt though, what a great race. The atmosphere, the drivers ready to take on this track, especially like Jimmie Johnson. It was real cool to see him take on the streets of Toronto for the first time. And we saw him in practice take all the time, every lap he ran, to make sure that he was able to take on the streets of Toronto, which wasn't surprising. Obviously, it was his first time there, since due to the restrictions in the last couple of years, the IndyCar series was unable to come up here. So while he was getting his feet wet in IndyCar, that
he wasn't the only one. That
was out of the question. That's true. There was some other.
Alex Palou, last year's champ, has never been there. I don't know if Colton had ever been there. Pato had never been there.
Right.
And I don't think Rosenquist had ever been there.
They were all good though, because
Grosjean never been there.
Grosjean was good. He was making room. They were all very precise in their early parts of the laps. The track was more of the beast to tame. Eventually they were able to go after each other, go after strategy. Big time race in the
race
track.
The track and find out there's other guys in the way.
Right. And what it's funny is actually what we're here for. We're going to hear from Jimmie here in a minute, but it's interesting hearing him say that it wasn't quite summer yet up here in Canada, because I asked, what is the heat like for us? For me, it's hot. What's the heat like up on these Toronto streets? And he was like, it's not quite summer yet. I'm like, well, you're from I should have been like, you're from California, man.
Yeah.
But it was interesting because I also asked him about the tire strategy. Who's going to start on the blacks? Who's going to start on the reds? And it was cool to see throughout the race, obviously, that with the information that I was able to get from Firestone with the tire strategy and whatnot, and to see how all that stuff come into play was really cool, because that was a factor here at Honda Indy is if you want to use the reds or blacks, the primaries are sometimes the way to go, and
alternates.
Sometimes they're not. The alternates are the way to go, and we saw a lot of different strategy play out eventually through the race, and it was good. I was able to, as I said, there's at one point even Jimmie was racing up in the top five.
What I noticed about the IndyCar race too, that happened in the Pinty's race, was the top three were all banging right in line with each other, just racing hard. So
Here's our
I'm excited to hear what Jimmie has to say.
Here's our word with Jimmie here on for our first time talking to old 7-time.
What are your thoughts on how practice went today?
So far, so good. I feel like each lap I'm making is really helpful and helped me learn this track. I've never been here before. First lap I made was Thursday evening in a rental car. So every lap counts, and I feel like I keep taking big chunks of speed out of the delta to the leaders every time I'm on track.
I'll say we've seen the speed improve in that, but what do you feel is still the toughest part for you right now with going into the race with it?
Just the aggression that these cars require. I feel like I'm being as aggressive as I've ever been in my life in a vehicle, and I still think I'm under the potential of the car. So just gaining that confidence and driving the car with aggression all the time.
How's turn 8 for you? What are some of the turns in the back half of the track that might be a little bit tricky for you?
8's probably the trickiest one on the track. The bumps get larger as you get closer to the turn, and that's where you're putting the most load in the car and need the grip. And it caught me out in one of the practice sessions I spun over there. But I didn't hit too hard, so it was nice, but it's a really sketchy corner.
And as for the heat, the brakes, and the tires, what are some of the plans for you guys today?
I don't think we have any issues. It's not quite summer yet, so up here it's as hot as we'll see, in a few weeks in Nashville. So from inside the car and components on the car, I think we're well within the safety window.
All right, thank you, Jimmie.
Thanks.
Jimmie Johnson, the WOMS alumnus, on the show, telling us about, and as well as Ashley McCubbin as well. We were both able to speak with him after the warm-up on Sunday and get an idea from a driver's aspect of what it was going to be like going into...
Looking calm, cool, and collected.
Yeah, going into the big show. That was... there was a lot, we're talking... This isn't... It actually used to be a lot more laps at one point in time.
The track was a little different, too. Right, coming through the pit complexes. Not that it would have changed how the lap was, but the track was a little different back then as well. I remember.
Right, and 85 laps is still a lot.
Was that this distance?
Yeah, 85 laps for...
What was the previous distances?
I'm not sure,
remember?
But I know in the past I watched a vintage Indy race and it was 90. It was 100 something laps, I think. Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah,
but
we were able to talk with, we were able to be around a couple of different legends in the IndyCar series this past weekend, and we saw throughout that race how Scott Dixon was able to come through with the tire strategy perfectly in his pits, being able to tame the track and to be able to, what I thought was hot, to be able to tame the heat, and maybe no one else thought it was hot. I got sunburnt crazy, and I'm sure other guys did too. But to be able to tame also some of the other stuff, there was a lot. Rosenquist, Rossi with that little issue. There was
little issue, broken suspension.
There was some stuff going on through. There was things not pretty as well through the race. Scott Dixon had a lot to deal with here, and it wasn't so surprising because there was a lot going into this for him anyway. And it was interesting because we'll hear here at the press conference, and he was asked that, he was probably asked that a lot recently, and he said he's a little annoyed by that, to be honest, sometimes, because he was just going in for a win. He wasn't worried about trying to tie Mario. He wasn't necessarily thinking about everything else. The championship stuff comes in mind because, especially, it's good to, as he'll say in the press conference here, it's good to have that in the bank, because when he's going into a track that he's not so good at Iowa, it's good to have this win, especially to break that streak, and for the team, for that momentum for the team. And not only that, just again going back to the fact from, as we say, from one legend to another, it, for at least from our perspective and what I was able to talk to the drivers about, we had some awesome perspective from the drivers, and no doubt with the show that Scott put on,
clinic,
kind of same deal.
Well,
again.
It was fuel mileage, and the thing about Scott is Scott has always been known for his amazing fuel mileage. That guy just makes fuel. He'll say it was was the help from Honda, and that was probably part of it too. But Scott is just really good at being able to be quick while saving
and
fuel.
holding. And that was another thing he was asked in the press conference, which you'll hear here. That's another unique thing that he came into play, and he talks a little bit about what goes behind him saving his stuff. He had to, hold off Colton. He had to hold off Felix. There's a lot of other guys that were coming up through the field. It was cool to see Graham Rahal get a good finish up here. It was obviously disappointing to see other guys like Will Power, Romain, all those other guys. He came out up top. You can't deny that he's one of the greats in the IndyCar series, and it was so awesome. We were able to kind of go into the media center, the conference room post race, and be able to get a sense of how he felt in that moment after obviously tying the great Mario Andretti with second most wins, and not only that, breaking his streak, and so much more here. We're gonna sit back, we're gonna listen to a bit of what Scott has to say here, and we'll come back with some more here on the Wide World of Motorsports podcast. Here is Scott Dixon, the winner of the 2022 Toronto Honda Indy.
It means a lot to me. It's even been mentioned in the same conversation as these greats. I never thought it was possible. So for me, it's a huge credit to obviously the team that I work with now, but also the team that I started with, whether it was my mom and dad to my brothers and sisters, all my family, to the Scott Dixon Motorsport group, which were the founders of getting a group together to put forward money and enable me to get to where I am today. So as he stated, it's a team effort, but those words from Mario mean everything to me.
Awesome. We'll open it up for questions here in the room. Raise your hand. Also on the Zoom, please raise your hand and I'll get notified. We'll start with Steve Woodich over here.
Congratulations, Scott. Fantastic honor. Couple questions. Earlier this week, on Friday, you were in here and you said, this week's been awkward for the team and amidst all the, kerfuffle. What does it say about the team in general and everybody, all the people involved, that you could have results like you did this weekend?
Yeah, it's not the first time. I think it's never about the errors or anything, right? It's always about the comeback and how you get yourself back to the top. And as everybody knows, it's never one person. It's a whole team. And sometimes those letdowns can be thrown by one person. But I think the way that everybody sticks together, pulls back and fights, that's what makes a difference. And that takes leadership. I think what Chip does, and whether it's his sometimes tough pep talks or whatever it is, he's in the business. This is the only business he's in, and all he wants to do is win. And that's why I love being a part of this team, because that filters all the way down to every single person in this team. So yeah, it's been interesting. Not the most interesting time I've had at this team, that's for sure. There's many ups and downs through everybody's careers, but it's just a bit of a blip and a bit of noise at the moment. But it definitely shows the resilience of this team, and even today, how the 8 and 10 fought back, especially the 10. I haven't seen how the race played out, but tremendous job for them, Alex and everybody to get back up, in a good place.
And you've got Emma and the girls here this weekend. I think having the Dixon family back together brought you a little bit extra mojo.
Yeah, it's great to have the family here. As always, it's a little mixed up sometimes which races they come to. I think they're coming to all the ones, maybe except for the last 2 now, which is great. I feel bad that kid's not here. I'm sure he was at home yelling at the TV. He hasn't really made too many races yet. He's a bit of a wild man, so he's hard to contain at a race. Hopefully he can make it to the Indy Road Course, but he would have been super excited and can't wait to get back home tonight to see him. But always very special, to have Emma here and obviously Poppy and Simon.
Awesome, thanks. We'll continue here in the room. We'll go right here to the Canadian News.
Hey there, Scott. John Chipley-Hill from the Canadian Press. You've joked all week that this is essentially your home track because it's in the Compliment. So, how's it feel to win at home?
It always feels good to win at home. You know, that's when you turn it up a little bit. You know, it's just that extra bit. But you know, honestly, I feel like I'm at home. You know, the fans are super into it. You know, it's just very special. I think to be back here. I think sometimes it takes moments like obviously what we had when we weren't here to really appreciate what we have as a sport and the people that love our sport. You know, so definitely in the winner's circle today. You know, that was quite apparent. You don't always get that at some of the races, and it's good to be back in Canada.
You've won here 4 times. What about this course appeals to you? Like, why do you have sustained success here?
I think you can see that when the cars rolled off, all of us were very quick. So it's always a combination. But I particularly like it. It's a circuit that you can really attack. Some of the circuits now with some of the tyres that we have, it's kind of you almost have to drive at 8 tenths. This one you can drive at 12 tenths. You can always overextend yourself and kind of find a little bit more speed, take risk with first reward. And I love circuits like that. I can't stand circuits with loads of runoff and you kind of make a mistake and nothing happens. So this one is very technical. It's very tricky. It's kind of like a bit of a ball rig. There's no real time to let up. So again, I think it's a combo with the style and the way I drive to how good the team is.
All right, we'll continue here in the room. We'll go to the front.
Congratulations, Scott. Richard Bonta from Post Media. That final restart, you got a real jump on it. And did you feel at that point that you had, first of all, was the car as good as it was at any point of the day? And secondly, did you feel you really had his number at that point, barring any further stoppages?
Yeah, it was tough with the restarts behind VK and Connor, just because the turbulence that you kind of get, and ultimately they were on pretty old tyres as well. So where they can be quick or having a little more temperature maybe in their tyres, it's tricky to really understand the gap and where you need to go. So I kind of was struggling on restarts, especially behind those guys, just with whatever balance issue you have, just kind of gets accentuated when you're behind somebody. So most of the day I really struggled with a loose car. The adjustments that we kind of made didn't really fix it, which was kind of I don't know, once I get back with the team and see why that happened, but maybe we just didn't adjust enough. But where I'm going with that is just behind those two, that was tricky. And Colton was putting a lot of pressure on. He was doing a fantastic job. Where I was struggling, he was very good. So it made for a good race for him. And then ultimately, once we got clean air, I knew we got a jump and I could fully attack without any sort of hindrance from the front. I knew we could kind of pull together.
All right, thank you. We'll take one more here in the room and then we'll go to the Zoom. Tim Perini.
Thanks so much, Kate. Appreciate it. Congratulations, Scott. If you were to go back to, let's say, 21-year-old Scott Dixon and tell him that you would be on equal with Mario Andretti in terms of wins, what do you think that Scott Dixon would say?
Crazy. I remember the day winning my first race. The next day was a real struggle. I was probably had a few too many drinks that night. I don't think I was even 21 at that point, so that was a shock.
I've heard some stories.
The bar that I was in that night. But yeah, it's. I remember even having a conversation with Michael Andretti about getting to his number, and I was like, man, you're crazy. It's not going to happen. He's like, no, honestly, it's going to happen. It's going to happen really fast. And to me, that was kind of the first awareness of like, wow, this there's some numbers that are achievable. But I think when you look at even getting to the answers and then Mario, it's the sport can be super tricky. You can be in it one minute, you can be out the next, and I think having the consistency and the understanding with the team and having that common ground and trying to win, it becomes the light of it being more achievable comes. But honestly, at the age 20, man, no, I was. Trust me, I had other things on my mind at that point. I was just trying to keep my job.
Do you think about chasing down AJ's title now?
Yeah, I'll probably have to be racing well into my 50s for that. It's hard. The competition's really tough right now. Even the luckiness of pulling strategies and getting those kind of, if you have a bad day and pull off a win from weird cautions and things like that gets a lot trickier just because there's so many good teams now. You've got a field of 25 or 27 every weekend that they're going to be thinking the same ultimate strategy. So yeah, it's tough, but we'll keep going, man. Like if we can get on a roll here and knock out some wins, anything's possible. But AJ's pretty safe.
Thanks again, Scott. Appreciate it. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Thanks, Tim. All right, we'll go to the Zoom, and it wouldn't be a Scott Dixon press conference if we didn't go all the way to New Zealand to our friend, David Turner. David, go ahead.
It makes it sound like I'm miles and miles away, Kate.
Technology is amazing.
Question I've got for you, that period of the race where Daly and VK were in front of you, and there was a lap or so there where you gave Daly a bit of a hard time. What says to Scott Dixon, risk versus reward, knowing that they were on a different strategy?
Yeah, it's always hard because you're not sure exactly how much fuel they've been saving. So you don't know how far they can go. And I knew today with Honda and what we were able to achieve on the fuel mileage. Even the longest stints were very easy for us. We could really extend. I trust Connor. I know if I made a dive, he would have been super respectful. So that was definitely not an issue. It's tough, right? When you're trying to pass a car that's on a totally different strategy, but then also use the mirrors a little bit to try and understand where your real threat is coming from. And I think Colton and his team did the right thing. They went flat out. They didn't worry. There was a pretty big number that we had to get, and my team was like, "Hey, you got to get this number. You got to get this number for the first 2 or 3 laps." And he just kept attacking, kept on overtake. And I knew at some point he had to give up because he wasn't going to make it. I knew we could get some big numbers if we needed to, and he's good at it as well. But it was nice to see those cards peel off in front so we get some clear air. But I was actually surprised VK pitted when he did. I thought he might just try and keep going.
Yeah, it seemed that he would have pitted and then he stayed out, so I was just quite interested to get your take on it. And then just secondly, before I let you go to the others, that period at the end of the race with the bag on the track, did it just get in your eye line and then mistakenly go over the top of it?
It was weird. I saw it at the apex at 3, and I was like, where do I go here? Because I didn't want it to go into the duct. And then I was like, well, I'll go wide and go around it. And then as I was approaching the corner, I'm like, there's probably a lot of marbles out there. I probably don't want to do that either. So then when I turned, I'm like, I'm running straight into it. And sure enough, and I don't know what it was, but it was super sticky. Obviously the tyres are sticky at that time too, but it stuck, man. And that thing was just flapping. And then when I turned left into turn 5, it didn't want to turn. I'm like, oh my God, thank God this is the last lap. And then by the time I kind of got the extra 6, it kind of found its way off the car. But I think there was a little bit still, trickling around on it. But yeah, I don't know what that was. And had it happened a few laps earlier, that could have been a bit of a game changer.
Oh, well, congratulations on today, and Kate, thanks very much for everything. We might be a long way away down here, but Kiwis are making some legions, and we've got one in the room with you right now.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
Thanks, David, as always, for joining us. We'll take a couple more from the Zoom since we're there. We'll go to Bruce Martin from Forbes.
Hey, Scott, congratulations. Are you more relieved to finally get to win number 52 in Ty Mario, because you've been chasing that for a while, or are you more relieved to get your first victory since May 1st, 2021?
Probably more relieved to just get a win. Because there's definitely people that just keep talking about it, which gets a bit frustrating. It's not like anything changes. We're still the same process and trying just as hard. But again, I think in this sport you always think about the close misses that you had, more than the actual victories itself, which can be a bit sad in some ways. But I'm happy for myself and my family, but really happy for the team. They deserve it. They've done a tremendous job this year, and we got the win, so that's all that matters at this point, I guess.
And you are probably the best driver in IndyCar history when it comes to saving fuel. I know you're not going to give up your secret, but what is it about your knack to be able to go fast and save fuel at the same time? Because it probably is a secret art.
I think days like today, just with how the balance of the car was, being super loose, it enables you to just carry so much speed at apex, and rolling that speed is where a lot of it comes from. That's where actually the trickier part for me during today was the push laps, because you really start to aggravate the end that's not really liking it, and the rear tires just start to burn off pretty quickly. So today fuel saving for me was definitely very I shouldn't say very easy, but much easier than normal, just because of the balance of the car. So there's a lot of things that go into how you achieve it, and unfortunately you have a lot of teammates during that period of time, and a lot of people get very good at it. So it's not the big difference that we used to have.
Well, congratulations. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Bruce. Next, we'll go to Jack Benyon from the race.
Thanks, Scott. We heard you say after the race that I think you said we needed this as you were kind of walking away from Victory Lane there. I just wondered how important this win was in the context of you've had some personnel moving around and you've talked about some setup issues that you've had at various kind of races this year, despite having relatively good results across the season. How important was the win in all that context?
Yeah, it's been a bit of a blur year. We've had loads of top fives, but they're not going to win you a championship. And we're in the business of winning, right? So I think that's where it gets frustrating. You see the close misses, and Indy's a good example. Indy's a good example for several years that it's a team effort. I made a big mistake this year, and definitely frustrating. And I think that's when it kind of you start to hit a bit of a bottom out, and understanding it's weird, the sport, when you're on a roll and you just think it happens and it's easy and stuff like that, and you maybe don't really respect it as much, but the low points and I've had these periods in my career, 04 and 05, just where you're like, wow, it's you got to be really respectful of the sport, and when it comes, you got to be extremely happy about it. So I don't know, it's never one thing, man. It's attention to detail on everything. It's hundreds of small details, but that's where this team, as we've seen, winning last year's championship with Alex, to winning the Indy 500 this year with Marcus, they're a tough group and a group that works extremely hard, and just very lucky to be a part of this team.
You said it was a blowout year, but I guess you've only had one race outside of the top 10 of the season, which is still really impressive when you look at it. Does that give you a lot of confidence going into the second half of the season? Now you've kind of bagged this win, that you're on to I guess you're on a better trajectory at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's it's periods where you see if you obviously do deep dives into a lot of things. Detroit could have been a lot different. We're in America as well, and in Mid-Ohio. It's the same for everybody, right? That's what drives everyone. It's just how crazy the competition is, and that's what I love. But it makes it damn hard to win. But that's how it should be, So yeah, it's always interesting, this process, and I think that's what IndyCar is just so competitive across the field. Teams driver combos. It's really tough, but yeah, I don't know. You just got to keep your head down, I think. And obviously, if you keep knocking on that door, eventually it opens. I was hoping that it was going to open at Indy this year, but it just wasn't the case.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Kate.
Thanks, Jack. We'll take one more from the Zoom, and then we'll finish up here in the room. We'll go to Ben Johnson.
Thanks, Kate. Hey, Scott, congratulations. How much momentum does today's win give you going into the kind of long list of races that we've got coming up with the doubleheader in Iowa, Indy, and then of course Nashville?
Hopefully lots, but again, you're only as good as your last race, and next week we go into a doubleheader, so it's a track that, Iowa, if we look at it, it's a track I wouldn't say we're particularly great at. Last year we had some good results for the second and the fifth, last time we were there. So we had a decent test there. I felt like we made some good gains. We wanted to actually go back, but we were unable to just because of tyre supply. Yeah, so it's going to be a big points weekend. I think the stretch that we're in, 5 races in 4 weeks is going to, put a pretty good pressing note, I think, on how the championship's going to flow. So I don't know, man. I don't want to predict anything in the sport. It's too tough to do that. All I know is that we'll be trying as hard as we possibly can.
Excellent. Well, congratulations, man, and speak to you soon.
Cheers. Thanks, bud.
Thanks, Ben. All right, we'll come back here to the room, and we'll go to Nathan Brown from the Indianapolis Star.
Scott, first off, congratulations on your win today.
Thanks.
You mentioned earlier Chip's leadership that did a lot to hold this team together through, I think you phrase it as some awkwardness when we talked to you on Friday. Does that come through in specific, face-to-face meetings? Is it just kind of an understanding of what Chip expects in this organization? How did you see your team get through this from when you guys arrived here Thursday and Friday to
Yeah, I think it's sometimes it makes you just put your head down a little bit more and work a bit harder too. Not that we don't always, but maybe when reactions like that happen, I think it enables a lot of people to get a better focus. So I think Chip was extremely calm this week. And I think that's real leadership. I think somebody's kind of thrown their toys out of the cot and kind of running around. That's going to be a different reaction for everybody to see. But he's very calm, and I think just the pep talk that he gave everybody before the race, is his typical speech of doing the obvious things right and looking after your teammates and bringing up the trickiness of, say, the pit lane that we have here. But that everybody in our team had a chance to win today. There's a strategy for everybody to win, and it was really nice. It was the 9 car. It was good for him. It's good for the 9 car in the championship. But then again, the rest of the team did a hell of a job to rebound from pretty crazy starting position, especially on the 10 side, to keep pushing. So I think it was a great calmness and a sternness that he had this weekend that kind of clears out the noise that's out there.
All right, we'll go down here to the young man on the front.
Well, Scott, congratulations on the win.
Thank you.
Something that I always look at yourself as is you've been in the sport for a good long time, and you've had a lot of I don't know if I can call them dreams, but you've had a lot of ambitions and dreams that you've achieved now after being in the sport for such a long time, and now a lot of active drivers, but especially people from my generation now are looking up to you and looking at what you have accomplished. So what kind of message would you like to say to my generation, for people like me that want to get into racing, that have these ambitions, but they just I guess they don't have that that push to really go and chase it? What message would you have for a lot of that youth?
Yeah, thanks for your kind words. I don't know. You've got to have that drive. I think that's a big part of it. You've got to have a relentlessness. I think to your work ethic, deep dive. I think the biggest thing is probably always ask questions. Always ask how you can do things better. And especially once you get to the level that it is now, there's so many smart people in the room that can guide you. The worst thing I think you can ever think is that you know everything. That's probably the best advice I could get. Even being in IndyCar racing for 20 plus years, I'm learning every day, and it doesn't stop. It's continuous. So it's hard work. I guess that's the biggest thing. You got to be committed, and you got to be committed for everybody that's involved. But you got to get after it.
Great. All right, we'll finish up with Krista Harding.
Scott, you last raced here in 2019. From what you can remember from that weekend, how did the crowd and the extracurricular stuff outside the race and everything with the promotion and everything like that, what did this year, all that remind you of 2019? Was it as big? Was the crowd down from 2019? What are your thoughts on everything surrounding the race?
Yeah, I think even from Friday, it looked like they needed more grandstands, man. Especially in pit road, everything was full. On a Friday, which is crazy. So, I think it just shows the love for our sport in Canada. And it shows that we probably should be racing in more venues here. I miss the days of racing there, 3 times a year, whether it was Edmonton or Vancouver or Toronto. But I think there's a lot of potential here. There's a lot of fans for our sport. They're very knowledgeable. They know all the drivers. They're wearing all the team kit. It's cool to see. And I think we should race here more. I guess is probably the easiest answer.
The manufacturer-sponsored races, Chevy, Honda. Chevy's won all except for this one. What does it mean? What do you think it means to Honda to have a Honda engine car win their race?
It's everything. It's cool to win a home race. I think what Honda do one for the sport, whether it's entitlement of these races, but obviously we're a Honda team. We're Honda thick all the way through with all our programs. They're a tremendous partner. For me, so it gives me huge pride to win at a race like this. A big win for me with the numbers, but to win at a Honda race, home track of Toronto Commonwealth. But I think it's very important. I think to have the support that we do from our manufacturers. And of course, without them, we wouldn't have been able to win.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you, everyone, for a wonderful return.
And we're back here, Wide World of Motorsports podcast, with Scott Dixon in post-race press conference, and being able to hear the legend with second all-time IndyCar wins, tied with Barry Andretti, and hearing him talk a little bit about with having 52 wins, tying, getting that much, and then tying a great. And then also it was cool with Mario wasn't able to, as the host of the press conference said, Mario wasn't able to do a direct feed, but he did tweet, and the tweet we read out to Scott in the moment, which is so cool. And
cool.
Hearing him that reaction. Yeah, absolutely. And hearing that and seeing and that was cool, because a bit of that's history, and we got to witness that, and fans got to witness that in the streets of Toronto.
Well, and you would think that, or you would like to think that at the beginning of Scott's career, he didn't start racing to beat records, right? Maybe that comes into mind, but I don't think that's your ultimate goal. Your ultimate goal is you want to go out and compete and win races. And Scott would probably say, all I did was race, like just show up and race. And you can hear in the conference, he's very humble about what he's achieved, and he said some really, really uplifting things for Canadian motorsports. We've got some news this today of the day of recording, possibility. We don't know. We're waiting for some more information that IMSA, we don't know. Rumors that IMSA is joining NASCAR. We don't know what that means for IMSA at CTMP. So to have him talk so strong about Canada
and having Motorsport back to, and he wanted more events at this weekend, or I don't know if he necessarily meant outside, because that would be hard, but maybe for sure this weekend. And or
maybe he just meant more races in
Canada, as well.
They used to go to Vancouver.
Yeah, and he mentioned that he wants them to go to other places too, because the fan, he really digs how the fans come out, and he kind of also relates to being Canadian, his connection, and I feel this connection too with other Commonwealth countries as well. So I totally understood when he said it, that he kind of feels like he's Canadian when he comes here. He feels welcome, and that's kind of for people who are not listening in Canada. That's kind of that's our MO, So that's good to hear that from him, and him say, also make the connection that he's comfortable and he feels at home, but also that there should be more racing there. And I think that kind of speaks a lot of volumes coming from one of the greats of IndyCar, and especially as you said with the, there's been a lot of questions during the last couple of years of how racing's going to play out north of the border. And, and that goes a long way. And not only that, hearing him talk about in retrospect about how he, what young Scott would say to the older Scott. And, it's really cool to hear him kind of look back as well in that moment too on his career. And it's such a unique moment, because he, as he said too, he wasn't really focused on so much of the record thing. He was kind of he needed to win. He needed to win. And he got that. He snapped that winless streak. We saw a great show. The fans of the Toronto got their money worth. People saw a great show, and obviously we hope to see IndyCar come back, of course, to the streets of Toronto, and hopefully, not that we're saying that's in limbo or anything like that, but if there's obviously support behind it. The promoters said that they saw the most people ever. There's a crazy amount of money donated for that was brought up. There was tons of celebs there, lots of eyes on it. It was a good show. And and it was crazy. The next thing you know, they all the 1 a.m., 5 a.m. the next morning, it's a
All
street
gone.
again. It's a parking lot again. That's
Yeah.
it. Back to 2023.
Wah,
Hopefully.
wah.
Well, yeah, it's like that's intense. Top Gear. We're throwing away tonight on Top Gear. We get shut down by BBC. No, but yeah. So we're gonna we're gonna have more, of course, in the local areas, in the Canadian motorsports community, and of course all around the Wide World of Motorsports on the show coming up in the weeks to come. We're on some places you can hear us. We're on a couple places. I know some people.
We're on the airwaves. We're on the waves in the air.
People know me. People know me.
CKMS 103.
CKMS 102.7 Radio Waterloo.
102.7. I am sorry.
107. We're gonna redo this one quick.
I'll do it. I got it.
Quick.
CKMS 102.7 Radio Waterloo, CFMH 107.3 Local FM every Saturday at 1 o'clock, and Performance Motorsports Network. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Wide World of Motorsports.
Yes, the reels.
.wordpress.com.
Wallace's awesome reels.
Thank you. I'm trying. It's just something we're doing, and it's just a different way to show the stuff that I love and you love. So we're trying to hit it from all
in
different
images and audio and
video.
But yeah,
and then you can hear our dumb thoughts about it.
Yeah, and we all of
free.
our stuff also too up on our website, as you said, the Wide World of Motorsports podcast on WordPress.com, as well as our esports team stuff. We have a lot of fun on iRacing, and we're always open to people running with us. We have a cool league that we run with some buds of ours, real cool guys. Mayhem Racing League. We're all over other stuff too, with the official events and the endurance races. So I'd love to. Yeah, we stream it on the YouTube, the Wide World of Motorsports, as well. And of course, the video versions of our past and future episodes of the podcast. So check out our YouTubes as well. Can't forget the YouTubes, Wallace. Come
Yeah,
on.
that's true. I always forget about the YouTube.
YouTubes. All right. Hey, you know what, Wallace? Solid episode, and I think it's looking about that time that we wrap it up.
Sounds good.
See you around the bend, folks.
Adios. Adios.